So today we are going to do our second session on weddings, and probably also the last one. Oh, okay. So today we are going to do our second session on weddings. Okay, that's better. So the first last week we had an introduction, about the different rules of weddings, who could get married, etc., and when and how. And today we want to dive more into actual, the setting up the wedding and all that. And that starts with the conditions to the wedding, okay? And it's actually a Jewish term from our tradition. It's called Tnaim. Tnaim means condition. When I have negotiations, so it's Masal Matan. So this is like let's negotiate about what are the conditions. In the past, it was like two people that sat together and made those conditions, and it was not the bride and the groom. Okay, it was the father of the bride and the father of the groom. They sat together, maybe sometimes with a third person, like a shadchan, a matchmaker, what? A mediator. Or a matchmaker, someone who would sort of close the deal and bring both parties together, and they would agree on who pays for the wedding, how many guests, where are they going to live? Are they going to buy them an apartment, etc.? And they're going to they worked out all these issues. That is not something you have to do halakhically. It's just how it was done. And therefore, and at the end of that ceremony, they would take a plate, like a nice decorated plate, and they would break it. Okay. Today, that's really what's left of that ceremony. And the reason you break that plate is, first of all, people say it's like good luck. May this only thing that will break in the marriage. But it also shows, it comes to also show that if you go away from any of these conditions that we agreed on, you're breaking the marriage. Okay, so it was like a simcha. You break a plate. I guess maybe they saw the Greeks breaking plates, and after they finish eating, so maybe the Jews like that. They said, let's adopt it. Okay. Then the time and the place for the marriage is very important to be determined, but you can imagine with Judaism, you can't just get married whenever you want. Okay, I don't know, in Christianity, are there any restrictions on when you could get married? Could you get married on Christmas?
I imagine you could.
Why not, right? You could probably get married on Christmas.
You get married on Sunday.
What?
You get married on Sunday, we would never get married on Saturday.
So in Judaism, you don't get married. What?
My mother got born on Christmas.
Oh, okay.
I think this is
You're holy, man.
She's in good shape on both sides.
Yeah. So in Judaism, you don't get married on Shabbat. There is a big question: can you get married Saturday night? The rabbis prefer you don't do that, because then you might start doing preparations on Shabbat. But in theory, if you had all the arrangements and everything ready before Shabbat, so you could get married Saturday on Saturday night. Now, by the way, if you have a wedding on Saturday, on Shabbat itself, it's still a valid wedding. Nothing says it won't be a validated wedding. Okay. Let's say you don't have a party. Let's say you just get a rabbi, 2 witnesses, and the bride and the groom. You can have a wedding on even on Shabbat. So you would sign it before. Okay.
What's about breaking the glass?
So you won't break a glass. Yeah. So there are a few things that you won't do, but these are not the things that determine if there will be a wedding or not. We'll talk about that in a second. But you don't get married also on all the other holidays, also not on Chol HaMoed, and that is because of the very nice tradition, but it's the tradition is like En me'arvin simcha besimcha. You do not mix simcha with another simcha. Okay, so if everyone in the people of Israel are rejoicing because of the holiday of Sukkot or something like that, so you don't marry people, you don't sort of like interfere with that simcha.
You don't get married after Tisha B'Av, do you?
Right. So now there are also other times during the year that you don't get married, and that is like the week of Tisha B'Av, which is like everyone is sad, so you don't do that. And also, there is also a strong tradition not to be married after Passover, which is during Sfirat HaOmer.
Oh.
Okay, until the Sephardim wait until Lag BaOmer, and the Ashkenazim wait till almost Shavuot.
A lot of days.
It's a lot of days that you can't get married, and that is a problem. And I wrote here that there has been some change since COVID, okay? Because what happened in COVID, people couldn't get married, and a lot of weddings were canceled.
Mhm.
And people started postponing their weddings and saying, "Oh, we'll just get married when COVID is over," which was like 2 years later, and that's bad. Okay, that's not good for the Jewish people or anyone else in that sense. So when Sfirat HaOmer came, okay, and that's in Israel, that's like the time of the summer, and you could do weddings outside, so it could be much healthier in terms of all the COVID regulations. So. But some rabbis said, but it's Sfirat HaOmer, you can't get married. So other rabbis said, I know, but we know, but it's a minhag. It's a custom. It's not like halacha. It's not like law. Okay, and therefore, this is where we see a very interesting phenomena in Judaism, that if you have a custom, I'm accustomed to doing this year after year, but it's not a law. It's not halacha. Okay, so you could sort of like drop down the minhag and do the wedding. And some rabbis said marrying people is more important than the custom of observing, Sfirat HaOmer. So they allowed weddings to happen at that time. And I think ever since then, I think it's, these are things that needs to be considered more and more, because the more people getting married and the more you're able to make it easier on people, that's I think what you should be doing.
Did people have?
There's also
Did people have also, say, a very small wedding with, say, just the parents?
Oh yeah,
and then
there were a
have
lot of
a celebration later on.
Yeah, there were a lot of small weddings happening with 10 people, just the parents. Yeah, and that was also an interesting phenomenon. There is a tradition of getting married on Tuesday, okay? Because it's Pa'amayim Kitov. When the world was created, God created the world, and he said it is very good, what he did. But on Tuesday, he said Pa'amayim Kitov. He said it twice. Kitov. It's very good. It's very good. So then, therefore, there's a tradition of getting married Tuesday, which is interesting. And here in America, it's done on Sundays, right? Not in Israel, because in Israel, Sunday is a work day. No one gets married on a Sunday in Israel. People usually get married on Thursday, which is sort of like the end of the week, because Friday is the day off in Israel, relatively off, not
I
like
got
here.
married on Father's Day, Doctor's Day off.
Okay, they had a good deal on the.
No, my in-laws had a retail business and Father's Day was right before, so that weekend, Sunday, they were exhausted, so we waited till Wednesday.
Oh,
And it became a joke because it's normally Doctor's Day off.
That's true.
And a lot of
Oh.
our family friends were doctors, and they were coming from other places.
What a great idea.
Got married
Oh,
on
wow.
Wednesday.
Great.
okay, so,
Everybody has
so
their
doctors
day.
get married on Wednesdays. There you go.
That's not the
Okay.
case now, but it was.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
Okay, where do you get married? Okay, there is a big debate. Can you get married in the synagogue itself? Not all rabbis like doing that, but it is definitely an option. My parents got married in the synagogue, but they did not allow them to take photos in the synagogue. Did anyone, that was in New York. They got married in an Orthodox synagogue, and for whatever reason, they said like you can't take photos in the sanctuary.
Well, you can't do that on Saturday,
It wasn't Saturday, no, it was a weekday.
No,
During the wedding.
They only they had a dress rehearsal and they took photos there.
Yeah.
Anyone encounter that? No?
No, we've had weddings here, we take photos, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason not to take photos, especially, I mean, today, of course, but I'm talking to you about the sixties, maybe back then there was something special, I don't know. Maybe it's the Orthodox synagogue. You can get married anywhere else, okay, that you want. And there is even a question that came up in the Middle Ages, can you get married in a cemetery? Okay, and I was asked that question a few years ago because someone had like a wedding outlet and it was like in the backyard was a cemetery.
Oh,
And the parents were like, we don't want our kids getting married here, and the kids said, no, it's fine, you know. It's like it was very weird situation. So I did some research, and apparently there was a Jewish tradition when there was the plague and people were very sick. They would bring the bride and the groom and the rabbi and the whole community, and they would have the wedding on the border of the cemetery. And that would sort of like bring good luck, and that would somehow stop the plague. Okay, so by bringing life, by marrying two people and bringing life, they were able to stop the plague. You know, I don't know if it worked or not, but that was sort of like the thinking. So like the cemeteries where all the people that had the plague were buried, etc., and the wedding. So that was like the bury. That was like
maybe there weren't any
Interesting
rats out
concept.
at the cemetery.
yeah, maybe because it wasn't the open. I don't know. Okay, what happens before the wedding? Okay, before the wedding, there is first of all the Shabbat before. There's an ufruf. Okay, ufruf in Yiddish. I don't know what it means, but it's in Yiddish. Okay, anyone here knows Yiddish and knows what ufruf?
I don't know what.
You don't know what it means. Okay, you've heard the word, right?
Yes, we always have them. We have them, all
Yeah.
our kids have
Yeah,
them.
well, but we need.
I didn't know about it when they told Rabbi said, just be there.
Right. So it's like it's a special celebration where the groom gets an aliyah, and today the bride and the groom, in conservative synagogues at least, get an aliyah together, and the parents throw a big kiddush, and it's a way to celebrate with the community. It's also a way, if you can't invite the whole community, it's a way to celebrate with the community right before, and for them to celebrate with you. If you're Sephardi, it's done the Shabbat after. Okay, so it's called Shabbat Chatan. Shabbat Chatan is the groom, and Kala is in egalitarian communities, and that's how it's done in Sephardi communities. My sister married an Iraqi Jew, so they had an ufruf at our community before the wedding, and a Shabbat Chatan in their community. So like, and then the wedding in the middle. So we had a lot of celebrations and a lot of logistics to work on, but it was really beautiful to have both traditions actually.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
One thing that's always puzzled me, at least in America, a marriage is not a community event, but historically wasn't a wedding including, the village or whatever, the synagogue and the people that were in it?
Yeah, back then they would the whole village would come, and they would also have, thanks for reminding me, they would also have a feast for the whole community, and that was also a way to bring in the poor people. So people back then, people get married all the time. So this is how you would feed the poor. They would only have one meal a week, one proper meal a week. It would be like the wedding of that week. Yeah.
Is the Shabbat Chatan in the Saradi or the Mizrahi community? It's in the Mizrahi community.
I guess the Mizrahi community. Yeah, when I say Sephardi, I mean both Sephardi and Mizrahi together. Yeah. Another thing that you do is go to the mikveh. Okay, you go to the mikveh is something that you need to be doing. I, as a rabbi, I don't, I encourage the couple to do it. It's not, if they don't do it for whatever reason, I'm willing to accept that, although I really encourage them to do that. Some rabbis won't accept it, and they won't marry someone if they didn't go to the mikveh. But I'm more lenient about it. I can tell you why, but the reason you do it is first of all, that you purify yourself, and you're sort of like renewing yourself for the wedding. It's like a nice, first of all, halakhically, it's something that you need to be doing. You need, especially for the bride, needs to purify herself, and I also recommend that for the groom, so that when they are together after the wedding, so they're both are tahor, they're both pure in that sense, and it's also like a renewal. Okay, if they were, with other partners in the past, so this is sort of like them getting together, and now it's just about them. So that's the mikveh. So you go to and people do a nice party. They go with the family, like the women go with the women and men go with men, and they have special blessings before. They do it in the evening. They light candles. They make it like a very nice ceremony the night before.
Too, they bring lots of food.
They bring lots of food and etc. You could also do it in the ocean if it's not too cold, and I've seen people do that as well. Yeah.
Does this apply to second marriages or third?
It would also apply for second marriages as well. Yeah.
How about third? You said third.
Yeah.
My brother's on his third.
Wow.
Who's keeping track?
I think I win.
There's a very interesting tradition of visiting the graves of family. Has anyone ever heard before the wedding? Okay, you go and you sort of like there's a tradition also before the high holidays to go to graves. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It's a beautiful tradition where you sort of like, you go and you visit the grave as you enter the new year. So as you're entering a new phase in life, the bride and the groom go to the graves of their family and sort of like, reconcile and ask for forgiveness, and also ask for them to pray for them up, in heaven. There is a tradition of fasting on the wedding day. Okay, and it's not just so you could get it better into the dress. Okay, that's not the reason. The reason is it's because it's like considered like Yom Kippur, in that sense that you are entering a new relationship, entering a new phase in your life, just like when we're entering a new year on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we fast on Yom Kippur, right? So, and we're asking God, to sort of like forgive us for all the sins we've done in the past, etc., as we go into this new phase in life. So the bride and the groom, they fast, and they, and that's a very interesting tradition as well. Okay.
People fainting.
Why?
Then you have some.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah, that's happening.
Rabbi? Hi, Rabbi. Hi. On Rosh Chodesh, they don't have to fast, right?
On Rosh Chodesh?
Yeah, if they get married on Rosh Chodesh, they don't have to fast?
Right.
And also, when you said, is it the groom also that goes to the mikvah, or just the bride goes to the mikvah?
The bride goes, but the groom could go as well. I encourage the groom to go as well.
Together.
But not without.
Not together.
Yeah, not together.
That beats the purpose. Yeah. Okay, then they would have to go again to the mikveh.
They're in continuous
Yeah.
circles.
Right. Yeah, they would even miss the wedding, so,
Well, that might have been the way.
Right. It might be, yeah. Okay, now we get to the wedding itself. In the wedding itself, first of all, a few minutes before the wedding begins, you have the ceremony of signing the ketubah. Okay, the ketubah is that marriage document where the obligations of the husband to the wife are outlined. Okay, and it's an old document written in Aramaic. And the reason it's written in Aramaic is because that was the lingua franca of the time. Everyone knew Aramaic. So they didn't write it in Hebrew because people would not understand the Hebrew. Today, you could write it in English, okay? Or in Israel, you could write it in Hebrew. For some reason, rabbis are not doing it. They're still reading it in Aramaic, although no one knows Aramaic anymore, okay? So that's like, it beats the purpose in that sense as well. But, as I say, tradition, okay?
A lot of them do, or at least I think in America, they'll do both. They'll have the Arabic and then the English.
And the English, okay, that makes sense.
Whenever I wanted Terry to do something that he didn't want to do, I would bring out the ketubah and say, here, right here. Right here, this is written right here.
Oh, okay, good.
So-
Did anyone bring their ketubah?
When I was married, I never saw a ketubah. I was married in a Reformed temple. My daughter was married in a Reformed temple, and she had a ketubah. I never even heard of a ketubah.
Oh, because what happens in the Reform movement is that they became more and more traditional over the years.
Oh.
Like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, people were not allowed to put a kippah on in the synagogue. But then they've changed. Now you're allowed to do that.
Okay, I was married 65 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that was a reform.
Years
That
ago.
was, as they say, hardcore reform. So what happens is in the Orthodox world, the groom, together with both parents and the rabbi and the two male witnesses, come and sit in a room on the side, and they sign it without the bride even present. And he signs the ketubah, and then it's done. In the conservative movement, at least in the weddings that I do, I bring in the bride as well, and the mothers of the bride and groom, and if we have women witnesses, so we also bring them in. So it's like a larger group, and that's the part where you see the groom taking the handkerchief and putting it above his head. Has he ever seen that? Okay. Larry, you don't remember?
I don't remember that.
Maybe you're not married then. So you gotta take that, okay. No, or maybe you're not obligated, it's like, yeah.
Actually, we were not together when we signed the ketubah.
Oh, okay.
You were in
That was a more traditional wedding.
yes, it was,
A more
I was
traditional.
separated from you at that
Well,
time.
I remember our witnesses.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the reason you do this with a handkerchief or sometimes with a pen is sort of like to do kinyan, which means you're authorizing, by doing this, you're authorizing that everything that is in the ketubah is done and that you're obligated to these obligations. And the witnesses of the ketubah have to be, at least in the Orthodox world, they have to be observant people that keep Shabbat and kosher and know what they're doing, and they also need to sign their name in Hebrew. In the conservative movement, they have to be good, decent people who are not criminals or anything like that. They have to be Jewish. They can't not be Jewish. The witnesses have to be Jewish, but if they don't keep Shabbat, that's also okay, as long as they're good Jews, as they say. So those are the witnesses for the ketubah, and then they also witnessed a little bit later on, we'll talk about that. There are additional documents in the conservative movement that are a must for signing the ketubah ceremony, which are not an obligation, unfortunately, in the Orthodox world. And these are two documents that protect the women from becoming an aguna. An aguna is a woman that the husband refuses to give a get. Okay, a get is a divorce. And unfortunately, sometimes there are men that refuse to give a get, to give a Jewish divorce to the women, and then she's stuck. She can never get married again. So let's say a couple gets married, everything's nice and happy, etc. But a few years later, they decide to get a divorce. That happens in life, and you are allowed to get a divorce in Judaism, unlike some other let's say in the Catholic world you're not allowed to. But if you only have a ketubah, okay, and the man refuses to deliver a get, a Jewish divorce to the woman, she will never be able to get married with someone else. And that is terrible. And that unfortunately happens. And men abuse their power many times in that way. And sometimes they do that to extort the woman. And sometimes they do it just because they're
Which they can.
bad, disgusting people. Okay.
I heard in Israel, when man refused to give a get, they threw him in jail until he gave it.
So sometimes they use that force, but there's some stubborn people. There's like, okay, I'm in jail, but at least my wife could never get married. There's some very vindictive people.
Wow.
It's not, and it happens. It happens, unfortunately.
You can get married civilly to somebody else.
Yeah, but then your children will be mamzers, will be a bastards.
No, but you could still, you just marry out, or you marry civilly.
Yeah, but that would be, if you would be someone that would care about,
Yeah.
because then your children won't be able to marry someone. It's very problematic.
But
So in the conservative movement,
I thought you had said that in Israel, they didn't have civil marriages. Or it's the same.
but she was talking about civil marriage. So in Israel, you won't be able to marry at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In Israel, you're stuck. You're really stuck. So in the conservative movement, there are two things that we make every bride and groom do, or at least I do that. I don't know if all rabbis do. One is a prenuptial agreement, okay, that doesn't just discuss, all the, civil stuff, if like I will get, like the house and you will get the car or whatever. That's not the concern of the rabbi. The big issue is like writing in the prenuptial that we will settle all Jewish matters. Like if there's a divorce, we will settle in a Jewish court, and I will be forced, the man will be forced to settle things in a Jewish court, and if I will not, I will be fined. Okay. Yeah.
They're starting to?
They're starting to do it also in the Orthodox world. Okay. That's very true. So you will be fined, okay, $500 a day that you will have to pay in a civil court. Okay, so the wife could go and sue the man, and according to that, he will be obligated to pay, and judges, uphold that as well. So that's one thing. And the other one is the Lieberman clause. Saul Lieberman was a professor of Talmud and a great scholar. And he came up with this halachic solution, which is actually even in the Talmud is mentioned already, where you annul the marriage. Okay, so let's say a couple wants to get a divorce. Okay, and let's say the man is like, I'm not willing to get a divorce, or I am trying to extort the woman, okay, and get the full custody of the children, or the house will be all mine. We won't split it 50-50 or something like that, okay? And if not, I will not give you a divorce. So the Lieberman clause says that after half a year that they try to work it out, and the woman tried to work it out with the husband, and he was not cooperative, a rabbinic court, okay, of 3 rabbis can annul the marriage as if it never happened. Okay, so that's like a big sanction against the man, or it could also go against the woman. Let's say the woman says, "I'm not willing to accept the get, the Jewish divorce." Okay, so she could also, create problems to the man because he can't get married either. Okay, so it works both ways. So the rabbinic court can annul that, and the way you do it is by having the bride and the groom sign on this before the wedding. Okay, because if they sign on this before the wedding, they agree to give the power to the rabbinic court in that sense. So sometimes, I would come and explain this to the couple, and most couples understand and agree. But sometimes there's like, why are we doing this before the wedding? We want to be happy and we don't want to think about divorce, etc. And this is where I need to give them, a lecture about people get divorced. People sometimes, it's life is nice and happy, but sometimes it happens, okay? And when you get a divorce, you're not so nice to each other. You don't speak in the same manner and cooperative manner like this. So I tell them, look at this as like an insurance policy for you not getting a divorce. Because if you're able to sign this now in a friendly way and sort of like, predict, so maybe it will work and help in that sense. Who knows? Okay, I didn't go back to the couples I married to see if it helped
What
or
about
not.
the children, Rabbi? If they have children, what happens to
Yeah,
them?
but you said in
If
6
the marriage
months.
was annulled,
Yeah, but it doesn't, the children are not bastards, okay?
then, but doesn't that mean that the marriage never existed if you annul a marriage?
Yeah, but what effect does it have on their children?
I don't know, I'm asking.
No effect.
No.
Rabbi.
So, were the children then considered out of wedlock because there was no marriage?
No, they weren't necessarily, but there's no legal status for children that were married from, out of a wedlock. They're still the children of these people.
And they're considered bastards?
No. Bastards is only if you sleep with a married woman,
Ah,
someone who's married to someone else.
I see, so.
That's
they're
the
not
only
everything.
category of
No,
being
no
bastard.
category.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
Rabbi,
yeah.
can an annulment be done? You mentioned something about 6 months where either the bride or a groom literally do not meet the terms of the ketubah.
Yeah, that again is, but that's not an annulment. That again is like is a way to tell the groom to put sanctions on him, but it doesn't force him to give a get. Okay, so it's not the same thing.
Well, if one of the parties, for instance, refuses to have marital relations, does
Yeah,
that invalidate the marriage?
no, it doesn't. It's a cause that the woman could come and say, "I want to be out of this marriage." Okay,
Comes to divorce.
yeah, but you can't force the man to give a divorce in that sense. Okay, now let's go back to the happy stuff of the wedding. And there's a reason we do all of this in a side room and not in front of the whole invited guests. And we also explain this to the couple beforehand. So the next thing is the bedekin, which is the veil.
Part.
Why?
My favorite part.
That's another word in Yiddish. I don't know what it means.
It's a cover, doesn't it?
Cover, yeah,
It's
bedekin.
a cover.
Okay, it means the cover. It's like the veil. Okay,
We can thank
and
Jacob for
Yeah.
yeah, and the veil is actually kind of like mentioned in the Bible in the story of Rebecca and Isaac. When Rebecca first meets Isaac, she puts like a veil on her, sort of like as a gesture of modesty or maybe embarrassment or something like that. But at a certain point, the groom needs to look under the veil and make sure that's his bride as well. Okay, and the veil is it's a tradition, but it's an important tradition that most rabbis mandate as well. Another tradition is wearing white for the bride. Okay, that's more in Ashkenazi traditions. Sometimes even the groom wears a kittel, a white kittel, like the rabbis and the cantors wear on Rosh Hashanah, and that sort of like goes back to that theme of the high holidays of we are starting something new in our life, so we're wearing the white as well. Although I've seen interesting weddings in Indian Jews, they don't wear white. They wear red. They wear like the what Indian women.
Very decorative saris.
Yeah. So the Jewish women wear some more stuff like that, which is interesting. Now we go to the ceremony. So the ceremony, the rabbi sort of like welcomes everyone in the name of God, Bruchim Habayim B'Shem Adonai, and they are all standing under the chuppah. Okay, the chuppah is a structure that is a temporary structure that is built with 4 poles that you hold with a some kind of a nice decorated piece of cloth above. It could be a talit as well, okay? And sometimes it's a more permanent structure. I don't know what the customs are here in the United States, but the chuppah represents the house of God, especially if it's done in a synagogue, or it also represents the new home of the couple. So when we see the bride and the groom walking inside into the chuppah, okay, it symbolizes them walking into their new home to be married.
When the synagogue was built here, I believe it was the sisterhood created the chuppah. I don't know if we still
Really?
have
nice.
that chuppah.
It was done by Elisa Shapiro,
Oh, was
who
it?
had done it. I think over the years it's been kind of worn, but they also put 4
Poles?
not the poles, we have poles, but they put 4 areas where you can fit a pole.
Oh,
so-
good.
So that it's not gonna fall over.
Right.
You've seen some that.
So you
they
could
put
stretch it, yeah.
Yeah, we
That's nice.
got holes in
We've got the holes
the
in
holes there.
the floor up there. If you look at the floor, you will see gold circles or something.
Oh,
I
that's
think
what it's
George has
for?
put plug in there.
Oh,
Yeah, they may
okay.
have, but
Makes sense.
then we can put a planter around it,
Oh,
and all
okay.
the flowers and whatever else you need.
Beautiful.
I was married in a sukkah.
Really?
I was married on Sukkot
Well,
in a
beautiful.
Reformed temple, and I got pictures of me with gourds and zucchini hanging around.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. I love that.
Anybody make any jokes about that?
My husband used to say, no chuppah, no shtuppah.
Oh.
I said, well, we had a chuppah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
In Israel, our cousins got married under a chuppah that was like a room. I mean, they built this thing so the grandparents and the
Oh,
parents and the aunts and uncles and the kids.
so everyone could fit
The
in.
babies that it was. Is there anybody in
Yeah.
the family left?
Sometimes they do that. They put everyone under the chuppah.
I've made several chuppahs for my own kids, and I made one that people, if they know about it, and I haven't told the office here because things have changed recently, that they could come and contact me because I have fabric with a design on it.
Oh.
I have 2 of them. Several families have used them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, my families use theirs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm waiting
Oh.
for them
our
to-
son is very.
that's beautiful. Okay, nice.
So is it, what is tradition, where you have the mother and father of the bride under the chuppah? Is that a nazi or is it part of?
So having the parents under the chuppah, I think is done in all traditions. There's some that have the male, the father and the father on the side of the groom, and the mother on the side of the bride. Okay, and some have it mixed. And then there's tradition of adding, grandparents, sisters, brothers, etc. It's always becomes a big issue because there's never enough room. Everyone's very crowded. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that, but some people just insist. Okay, there are two parts of the marriage commitment. One is the engagement, which is erusin, which is betrothal or kiddushin, sanctification. And then there's a second part, which is the nisuin, the marriage, which is formalizing the physical union between the couple. And today it's done together. What does it mean? In the past, people will get engaged, okay, and then they would wait for a year until they actually got married. Now you say, "Oh, we do that today as well." No. It's not the same thing as engagement today. Engagement back then would be actual, like, marriage. It would be actual people giving rings to one another and making that commitment and signing the document, and it's almost like marriage. But for whatever reason, they would get married and the bride would stay at home and the groom would stay at his home, and they would only be reunited after a year, okay? Maybe because it gave them time to grow, because they were so young, to adjust to that. There were different reasons why this was done, but at a certain point, the rabbis kind of like realized it's not so smart, because sometimes people change their mind and then they need a divorce. Sometimes, other things that you didn't plan could happen a whole year. Okay, maybe you see someone you like.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's a big problem, because if you do something with someone else and there's a child coming out of that, unexpected relationship, that's very problematic. That could create a bastard. Okay, so the rabbi said, you know what, we want to do this as soon as possible, one next to the other. So they brought the two ceremonies together. So the ceremonies, okay, go like this. First of all, there's a blessing over the wine and the blessing over the erusin, which is sort of like saying, like, this woman is the only woman that will be married to this groom. Okay, that's sort of like the blessing of saying that this is the couple that is getting married and no one else. And the blessing over the wine is really the blessing over the wine is whenever we have sanctification of an event like Kiddush for Shabbat, okay, or for on the holidays, or anytime we have the wine, okay, or Havdalah, etc. Every time we sanctify some moment in Judaism, we have the wine. So we have these two blessings, and then we have the ring ceremony, okay, where traditionally the groom gives the bride a ring, and he says to her, "You are sanctified to me with this ring, as according to the religion of Moses and Israel." Okay, so that is the ceremony of engagement. But today we see it all as part of the wedding. So that's the first part. Now, just when we go into that first part, let's just talk about the ring, or sometimes it's the rings, okay, in plural. Why? Because traditionally it was just one ring that the bride would get from the groom, okay? And that is supposed to be worth at least a pruta, which is a very minimal amount of money. And today the rings cost much more than that. And the bride gets it from the groom, who sort of like sanctifies the bride, and with this makes the marriage. okay, with that ring. So but in more modern days, women also started to say, we also want to give a ring. And the rabbi said, okay, but it's really the man who is sanctifying the woman. So the women said, but we also want to sanctify the men. So in the Orthodox world, they do not allow that. It's only the man that gives the ring. But in the conservative movement, and of course in the Reform, the woman also gives a ring and also sanctifies the man. So it's like mutual agreement that they are sanctifying each other through those rings. And sanctifying means basically, or to spoil the romance here, sexual rights. Okay, so I have, like the groom has solemn sexual rights with this bride, and the same goes also for the groom. The bride sort of like gets, exclusivity, sexual rights with this man, and that is really the essence of marriage at the end of the day, right? And the role of the witnesses is to see that they are actually putting the ring, okay? And they put it on this finger, the index finger, because that is sort of like something from the Kabbalah, that the way it's I don't remember exactly the reason for that tradition.
Because it went directly to the heart.
That's.
Yeah, that's a Kabbalah. It's like that's the explanation in the Kabbalah. Thank you for reminding me that.
Before we had modern science, they thought that was the important part for health and happiness was coming through the index finger.
And also it says like that's like the pointing finger. So right, like when you point at something. So yeah, so for these reasons. And then you move it to the other finger. There, the bride and the groom, okay, mainly the bride, needs to have their hands clean of any jewelry. No other rings, no bracelet. Some even say no earrings, but that's fine. But nothing on the hand that will sort of like confuse the witnesses from what exactly is she getting. Okay. Yes.
Is there a reason? Closest to the heart.
No, it's the right hand.
Oh, it's right.
You move it afterwards to the left, but it's the right hand. It's the right. Is this the index finger? Yeah, it's the right index finger, and then you move it to the left. Moving it to the left is really the tradition of all. It's like a Western tradition. Where that from? But there's some background noise here. Yeah, I took that out.
Rabbi, is it true that it doesn't have to be a ring? It's just something that he owns that she accepts in front of the witnesses, 3 witnesses.
That she doesn't what?
That it doesn't have to be a ring. It's just something that he owns that she accepts in front of the 3 learned witnesses.
Yes.
To be married.
Anything that's valuable in that sense. Okay. But it became ring, and also the design of the ring needs to be a full circle with just a simple circle of gold or silver, no stones in it. Okay, but you could write
what about
something.
Engraving? Can it be engraving on the ring?
You could do an engraving on the inside, yeah.
Right. I had
The ring, the ring is golden all the way around, it's a circle, but then on the outside, there's some design. As long as that inside circle
Yeah, it's not halacha, it's not like a must, but yeah, but that's the tradition is if it's like design that's like embedded in, it's okay. If it's like a big stone or something, that's problematic.
Stones.
You can,
Then
you can have engraving on the outside of a ring?
you could do the graving outside of the ring. I think you can, yeah.
We'll just roll.
It's less customary. Usually you do it inside. After the rings, we do the reading of the ketubah. And the reason we do it at that point is sort of to separate between the engagement part of the ceremony and the marriage part of the ceremony. So the ketubah is sort of like the agreement that the bride and groom did between them and the obligations of the groom towards the bride. And then we do another, we open another bottle of wine and, or not open another bottle of wine, and we pour wine to a new glass, okay, a second glass, and we do the 7 blessings, the Sheva Brachot, okay, that talk about the creation of man and then of bringing, man and woman together and about building a house and building the house of Zion and the happiness that we're all enjoying during the ceremony. So these blessings are very beautiful and they have a special melody. And after that, you give what I do is I take a third cup of wine, glass of wine, and I take the wine from the betrothal, from the engagement, and I mix it with the wine that we just did a blessing now of the actual marriage, the nisuin, and I pour the wine into a new glass. And the reason I do that is to symbolize the building of a new family in Israel. You're taking like one family and another family, and you're pouring it together, and you have a bride and a groom, and they get to drink from that new glass. First, the groom drinks, and then he lets the bride drink from that wine.
You explain all of that?
Yeah, I explained that. And then they do a breaking of the glass, okay? It's usually the groom that needs to break the glass, and he says a famous verse, if I forget thee, Jerusalem, okay? I will forget my right hand. Okay, I will always remember Jerusalem. This is sort of like a moment of meditation. It's also like a sad moment. I know we're all happy and joyous once the glass is broken, but that's not the reason. The reason is really to remember Jerusalem, even at our happiest moments of wedding, enjoyment, and building families and life. We remember the destruction of the temple, and I always bring the opportunity here for people to remember their loved ones from the past. If someone is not present at the wedding because they passed away, so this is the opportunity to mention them, and also to tell the couple that there are a lot of issues in the world, and this is like a way for them to be responsible and mend the world together. After they break the glass, the mazel tov and dancing, etc. And then there's a yichud. Yichud means being alone. The bride and the groom go to a room. You don't, in Sephardi traditions, you don't do it. In Ashkenazi traditions, some people do it, especially in the more religious segments. In the Orthodox, they go to a room where in theory, they're supposed to do it for the first time, okay? But what usually really happens is that they have food there because they were fasting, okay? So this is their opportunity before they go out and dance with everyone and really faint, okay? This is their opportunity to grab a bite to eat and to just be the two of them together. The witnesses stand outside the room and they're not inside. So it's just the bride and groom in their own moment. So it's like a very nice moment. And then you go out to the wedding feast. it's a mitzvah to have a wedding feast, to have the food, etc. And as I said, like a lot of times in when people used to live in small villages, they would invite all the poor people of the community, so they would have also proper meal. And then dancing and making the couple happy is a very big mitzvah. Okay, a lot of people say, I don't dance, I don't like dancing. It's not about you. You have to go and make the bride and groom happy. The Talmud says it's one of the biggest mitzvahs that there are in Judaism is to make a bride and a groom happy. Okay, so this really summarizes our
bride dancing around the groom.
Oh.
ceremony. I took that out. I thought I didn't know if I would put that in. You did that?
No, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you
I've been
informed
to
it. You
weddings
did it?
where it's
Yeah.
done.
I
That's
think it's
nice.
okay.
Yeah.
What
Well,
about the bride and groom up on chairs dancing around?
that's after. That's after. But before, okay, I'll talk about
I
that.
thought some people, not just the bride, then they'll have the groom do it around. The
Yeah, the
bride.
more, yeah, if you want to be
Make it
egalitarian,
egalitarian.
but traditionally it's the bride going around the groom seven times. It's something from Kabbalah. It goes with 7 blessings. It goes with 7 days of creation. And it's sort of like a lot of people see it as like, oh, now she's going around the center of her life, that this is her life, is like the groom is making him happy, prosper, etc. So some people don't like doing that tradition, but some people also say it's like when you circle around your prey, when you're a hunter,
Yeah.
around, like around and around, it's like, focusing on it. So the groom needs to know that he's being
Watch.
watched.
It's usually the female who goes out the hunting.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, so even
Yeah,
better,
and usually
yeah,
somebody has a job of counting.
yeah,
Yeah.
someone needs accounting. Yeah, so there are a lot of traditions. I haven't done, maybe I did one wedding that they did it, but most weddings that I do, they don't ask to do it.
The,
My kids did it in the contemporary, they all did it. They had the bride go 3 times, the groom go 3 times, and then together they went.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
you could do it. My daughter for her wedding wanted to step on the glass too.
Yeah, people do that
So
also.
the rabbi at the time, Rabbi Shulman, says in his whole career, she was married on a Sunday and the next day was Monday and another convert was married on Monday. And both girls wanted to step on it.
Oh, wow.
My daughter, who comes from a very physical and background, a lot of sports and all that, missed the class.
Oh, wow.
What kind of shoes are they wearing that they'd want to do that?
Yeah.
I thought, oh, whatever. And the rabbi just looked at me, and go, oh.
The glass is a light bulb.
Right, well, you can do
Oh, yeah.
anything you want.
Well, you could do a light bulb, but you could find a thin enough glass to do that, yeah.
Rabbi, Rabbi, what was the original, you said traditionally there was, the Yichud was for something, but now it's because they're eating? Because they're fasting?
Oh, that's it. No, so they go to the Yichud room. But in terms of the glass is already, is spoken already in the Talmud that happens. So it's a very ancient tradition.